Am I the a-hole for banning my sister-in-law from my house over tomato sauce? I, 28 female, have an older brother, 32 male. He is married to sister-in-law, 33 female. I get along with her well, except for this one point. If you don't keep an eye on her, she will get into the kitchen and add seasonings to whatever is cooking. She thinks she is fixing stuff, but not all foods need turmeric in it. This Saturday, I received 40 pounds of tomatoes. It took me the whole weekend to turn it into a sauce that I was planning to make. I can it plain, then add whatever seasonings and herbs it needs depending on the recipe. They came to take a bag of spare clothes for one of their kids, and in the 5 minutes it took me to get it, she managed to get into the kitchen, add salt, pepper, turmeric, olive oil, garlic powder, and Italian herbs to all 5 of the pots that were simmering on the stove. And when I asked her what she was doing, she had the audacity to say, "This sauce needs some taste. I added it for you." Like I've never told her not to touch what I was cooking before. I was so angry that I knew I couldn't be calm talking with her. So I simply walked to my brother, told him to take the clothes and his wife, and that she is no longer welcome in my house. She had followed me, was shocked, and started apologizing, but I just ignored her. I added that he should come by tomorrow to take the sauce his wife ruined, because otherwise it would be thrown away, and that I expected 40 pounds of replacement tomatoes. They left. He came back with the tomatoes, an apology letter from her, and an apology carrot cake, my favorite. But I told him that I stand by my decision. Now my parents got involved since I am the one that usually hosts, and since she's not allowed in my house, I told them to make alternate plans for Memorial Day. My husband says that I'm in the right, but my parents say that my reaction is way overblown. So, am I the a-hole? Don't screw with someone else's cooking. You don't mess around in their kitchen. That's their kitchen. If they're cooking something, you don't mess with it. You don't put a pinch of salt in something if you think it needs extra salt. If you want extra salt, then add a little salt when you eat it, if you're going to eat it. All that flavoring in canned tomatoes. The one thing that you should maybe add to like some canned tomatoes, if you're mostly planning to use it for like, red sauces and stuff like that for pasta or whatever, maybe a bay leaf or some basil. That's it. Don't start adding a bunch of stuff. Don't add salt. You do that after. You do that while you're cooking and everything. Don't mess with your canned tomatoes. Those should be plain like she was doing. You're not an a-hole. Your sister-in-law needs to mind her own business. And if she's constantly doing stuff like this, and especially just up and did this now, not even asking you what you were doing with them, yeah, no, you're not the a-hole. I'm sorry. I'm getting so worked up, but I pride myself in my kitchen, and I love to cook. I'm a pretty dang good cook if I do say so myself. This would drive me up a wall. I would have possibly yelled, and that's not something I do often, except sometimes on here because I get worked up. What you gonna do? Today, I effed up by matching with my homophobic uncle on Grindr. So I have an uncle, we'll call him Jay, who has always been very vocal about his disapproval of my sexuality. There is not a family gathering that goes by where he doesn't say something a-hole-ish about homosexuality or me specifically. Well, this weekend, in between family gatherings, I was looking to meet somebody. I started chatting with an older man because that's how I roll. A lot of older guys don't like to show their faces because they aren't out, so I don't think much of it when he doesn't show me his face. We actually hit it off great, and after receiving a few pics I wish I could unsee, and sending a few I wish I could take back, we decided to meet up for, well, you know. So I'm at this coffee shop down the street waiting for my man to show up, and you know who walks in? It is at this moment I realize my F-up. I've been flirting with my gay-hating, closeted uncle. He tried to play it off like a random encounter, but I wasn't letting him get away with that. After some pressing, he finally admits that he is the man I've been talking to, and I told him I don't judge him like he does me. He apologized for the hurtful things he's said to me over the years. He kept talking with me like he was still interested, and I had to make it clear that this was not going to happen. I had to get up and walk out, and after multiple texts from him, I had to go ahead and block his number. I can't believe this guy had the nerve to judge me and treat me like less of a human being after all these years when he's a total creep and a massive hypocrite. Always get a face pic, people. All right, so as a pansexual man who struggled with accepting his sexuality until his mid-20s, like, I was very closeted and I repressed that side of myself because of the religion that I was in and stuff, and I was in huge denial. I was still very accepting of people. I was never, like, homophobic, but my religion said it was bad, and so I denied it. And so I get that side, especially in an older generation. I'm guessing this uncle, maybe, 50s, 60s, who knows? I don't know. So I can get that being in denial and sometimes even lashing out and being hurtful. I don't think it's acceptable. I'm not trying to make excuses, but it sometimes helps to understand this older generation, because as much as my generation was kind of, oppressed with this stuff and repressed things, their generation had it so much worse, I think. And so that part of the story, I'm going to give him some small amount of leeway on. I could have seen forgiveness and understanding and helping that uncle be a thing until he talked like he was still interested. And then you call the police, oh my God, just so creepy, so wrong. No. So yeah, block his number, stay away. It's not your place to out him to your family and be like, look what he did, but still just keep your distance, and oh my God, I'm sorry. You're my child. I have the right to poison you. I'm allergic to fish and seafood. It's not the anaphylactic type of allergy, thank goodness, so I'm not going to die if I eat some, but I do throw up, have a stomach ache, and a massive headache for a few hours. Enough fish and seafood, and I break out in small red hives over my arms. My mother didn't believe it, and as a child, I couldn't stand up to her properly. She'd force me to eat stuff with seafood or fish in it to prove I wasn't allergic, then ignore me as I was sick. One day she held a dinner party. I was dressed up beautifully and trotted out to parade before the guests. At the time, I was around 9, precious for my age and absolutely fed up with my mother making me sick. When she held out a fish cutlet, fish cooked with vegetables rolled into a ball covered in batter and fried for me to eat, I saw my chance. Me, loudly, I can't eat that. I'm allergic to fish. Mother, no, you're not. Eat it. Me, I am allergic. I'll throw up. No Asian mother will back down in front of guests for fear of looking like she can't discipline her child. My mother grabbed the fish cutlet, shoved it into my mouth, and said in her most firm voice of command, "Eat." So I ate it. Cut to about 10 minutes later, I go up to my mother and tug on her sari to get attention. Me, I don't feel well. I vomited on her, on the expensive carpet and in full view of all of the guests. My mother has a reputation for being a kind, generous, charitable, and very religious woman, so in front of all the guests, she couldn't do anything except act sympathetic and send me off to bed to recover. She never made me eat fish or seafood again. Okay, here's my question. Did you ever have, well, obviously you didn't have like a medical test because your mother didn't believe you had this allergy, and so she wouldn't have brought you into a doctor to get it confirmed. Otherwise, I would have hoped. But even still, yeah, if you're like throwing up and breaking out in hives, parents, stop trying to be like, no, this is all in your head. Maybe it is psychosomatic. Maybe somewhere deep in that, and for a child, their brain is so convinced of that they're producing certain symptoms. Maybe. Don't push it. You do not need to play detective and prove them wrong somehow and everything. Just believe the kid. Obviously, at the bare minimum, they hate it. So don't make them eat it all the time. That's like, I get getting your kid to get over some food dislikes to appreciate different flavors, but come on, throwing up in hives, that's too far. Just give the kid some, anything. I slept with my girlfriend's mom 2 years ago. I can't tell her because I know she'll dump me, and it'll probably end her parents' marriage. So, let me first just say, I'm not the one in the wrong for this, but I have to say it's somewhere. It's eating me alive. 2 years ago when I was 19, I met this woman while I was working as a personal trainer. She was in her 40s and looked like a 25-year-old. She took an interest in me and invited me out a number of times, and we had intercourse a few times. After one of our meetups, she said it was wrong for someone of her age to be with me because I was too young and change gyms. My girlfriend and I have been together for just under a year. She's amazing and I love her so much. 2 months ago, I met her family for the first time, and it was a shock. Like, she took me to the house where I had hooked up with a woman and I felt like I was being pranked. Before I see her mom, it hits me. I have a type, and they both fit that type, so it makes sense. I've been hooking up with a single mom, and now I'm with her daughter. Then her mom and dad pop out, and we both almost crap ourselves. I met her parents. They've been married for 20 years. I realized I had been a married woman's boy toy. I felt incredibly ashamed. Later that week, her mom finds my number and tells me that I can never speak of what happened. She says that my girlfriend will hate me forever because I'll be the one who broke up her parents. So now I'm stuck keeping this secret. She invited me to spend Thanksgiving and with her family, and since my family is 1,000 miles away and I already told her I don't plan on going home, I don't really have an excuse to not go. So now I'm going to have to sit there at a table and enjoy Thanksgiving dinner with the woman I had an affair with, her husband, and her daughter, who I am now in love with. I'm effed. Yeah. I'm sorry. You are. I don't have an answer for this. Usually, I'm old enough now. I can think of things. I can be reasonable. I often talk about to tell the truth, be open, be honest. Communication is great, but this is, yes, not your fault at all. But yeah, you would ruin the relationship, and that sucks because it's not a good reason to, but but your girlfriend has a right to know, right? Like, people should be open about their histories and everything. That's part of a healthy relationship, I personally think. Oh my gosh, no, I think you might have to let her know, but I don't like that. I don't know. I would probably be honest, and that's, oh boy, such a gamble. But maybe it's meant to be, and she'll be okay. Come on, you didn't do it intentionally. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I feel so bad. So if anyone in the comments has any ideas, please feel free to share, because, oh my goodness. Faked proof that I had a flat tire so that the lazy people in my group project would have to do the presentation themselves, therefore likely will fail. I'm in a class where a group research project presentation is a huge chunk of overall points. Everyone knows in group projects you always have that one slacker who doesn't do anything that you have to compensate for. However, I got stuck with possibly the worst 3 people to be in a project within the class. I did the entire research, presentation, poster boards, etc., among many other annoying things, myself. I tried talking to them and telling them they needed to put in their share of effort. Ignored. I'd send them tasks to do. Ignored. I tried to schedule meetings. They'd say they were coming and then leave me alone at the library. This happened from the get-go. It was abundantly clear that they expected everyone else to do the work, but everyone else turned out to be just me. Rule: we couldn't have things 100% memorized word for word, and we couldn't read off anything. We had to actually know the subject. I was fully prepared to do most of the talking and even wrote down a small script for them and told them to know what to say during their part at the very least. The night before, I told them we had to meet up to at least go over the whole thing one time. Once again, none of them showed. At this point, I'm livid and decide they can just do it themselves, which means they'd get up there not knowing a damn thing to say other than the small info I gave them and couldn't even BS anything because they did no research. Thing is, if we miss without an excuse, we fail the project. If you have an excuse, you have to have documentation. I commute and live an hour away, so I decide that I'll conveniently have a flat tire right before class. Went out and actually bought a tire so I could have the receipt to prove it. Emailed the professor, who said I can present by myself during his office hours. Turns out they completely bombed and not only probably failed the project, but since they're bad students, might even make them fail the class. Honestly, there's only one part of that story that I would say just feels wrong, and that's the fact that you had to go and buy a tire to get away with this. Like, those people deserve to fail. They did nothing. They made no effort, even when you gave them a lifeline at the end to be like, look, just memorize these little things and we're all gonna get by. That's all you have to do. And they still screwed up? Yeah, no, they deserve to fail. Absolutely. And at that point, you're kind of too far in. You can't go to the professor and be like, they didn't do anything. I don't know. What proof do you have? How do you prove that? So yeah, I think, Boy, I wish you could have come up with an excuse that cost you less money. I hope maybe your tires needed changing, but don't just change one. That's going to screw up your whole balance. You got to at least change the front two or the back two. Oh, man. I guess some tires are a little cheaper than others, but, yeah. No, totally justified, though. Yes, I'm glad you did that, and hopefully they'll learn a lesson from that, because apparently they didn't learn anything else. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.